G'day guys, this is a new time-lapse video for a Jubilee commission, well, post-convention commission. It's the 90's Jubilee, so based on the X-Men cartoon from the 90's, essentially my favorite X-Men, I guess. It's the one that I grew up with. Yeah, so it's a traditional piece. I'm doing the baselines right now. I streamed this earlier on Instagram also, but I only streamed the line art section. For those who watched it then, we would know by now that I didn't finish it off on the stream due to having to wait for the ink to dry. This particular paper isn't exactly my choice, if I had a choice. It's one of those sketchbook commissions where they hand you a themed sketchbook. So the piece before this is actually a Wolverine, the page before mine, and yeah, the rest of the book I assume is going to be filled with the other 90's X-Men. This is actually the second time I'm recording this commentary. The first time I had the mic backwards somewhat, so I was kind of speaking into the back of the mic because it's one of those mics where both the front and the back look the same, and I hadn't realized that I was speaking to the back and the sound was all garbage. So second time saying all of this. I don't exactly remember what I said the first time, so I do apologize if I say nothing of importance. The video itself is a 5x speed time-lapse. The original video length, the recording length, was 58 minutes. Right now I'm currently using the Pentel Brushpen. I think the medium tip, maybe the medium or the large tip I'm using, I'm not sure, one of those two. It's my favorite pen to use, and even on paper that I'm not really used to, which is the case here actually. For the blue line, as you can see, I use Copic because that's my go-to for color, anything traditional color. If not watercolor, like a basic watercolor, I will go with Copic Markers. It's my go-to. Yeah, so and also I'm using for this piece and for I suppose future pieces, I'm going to be using when I line art skin color or skin, anything flesh, I'm going to use my a Kuretake ZIG clean color real brush pen. It gives it like the color line hold effect, which I think looks pretty neat. I'm not sure if you can see it clearly on this video, but if you saw the piece in person, you'd be able to tell. So right now I'm just inking the piece out, kind of getting it done. I'm trying to think now what I actually spoke about in the first recording, because I know I covered the entire video, but I'm not really remembering at this moment what I even talked about. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. See, as you can see, I used a sheet of paper to go over the drawing because when I was inking it, the paper, the pen itself wasn't cooperating too well with the paper, and it would take a bit of time for the actual ink to dry. And because I like to work as quickly as I can in terms of getting the line art done, like single stroke type stuff, I get slightly impatient in that sense, like because I'm used to a particular workflow. And because of that, I had to use the sheet of paper to block my hand because I actually smudged a section, which I had to correct. That's one of the things that I love about working traditionally, is having a kind of think on your toes, I suppose. Is that the saying? I have no idea how the saying goes, but kind of, yeah, working And basically, you know, as soon as if you make a mistake, just trying to find a way to work around it. It's I like that part. There is no like Control Z. There's no undo button. It's either find a way to fix it. Hopefully the error isn't too large enough to not correct it. You know, like I can't scrap it, especially this one because it's in a sketchbook. I can't just like scrap the piece and just dispose of the sheet and then start over again. I have to make it work because it's in the book in specific. And thankfully, you know, it wasn't too bad of an issue in this case. It's essentially just some minor spot blacks, which works well for the piece in itself. So I think this is at this point I essentially stopped streaming because I needed to wait for the ink to dry, and I think I might have even just paused the video, went for a drink, and then just here we go. Now this is, I think, like 20 minutes after recording. I've recording the initial video anyways, and same video, same clip really. It's just now erasing it. I could technically speed up the erasing section, but I guess if everything's the same speed, might as well keep consistent. Anyways, this section here, it's always tricky coming up with an effect to do for her fireworks. Essentially, I probably could have used other colors, but I figured staying with the same color would work well enough. It's always easier to color her, to do her effects digitally. So working traditionally with her firework effects, it gets more, it's somewhat of a challenge because you don't really, there's so many various ways to depict fireworks, the sparks and stuff. And I think I said this earlier on the initial recording that I somewhat wish that the paper was like an off-white color, and if that were the case, I would have used like an opaque white ink to show her her firework effect. But it works out in the end, I suppose. Does the job. So now I'm coloring her flesh. I wish the paper cooperated better. I would have attempted more things, I feel, but because I didn't really want to risk it on this, I did an experiment as much as I probably would have enjoyed doing. Still, I think the end results came out well enough. I'm happy with it, and hopefully the client's happy with it too. But I'm happy with the results. It's light, you know, working with light's always fun. Working with Copics is always fun. I just wish, you know, I didn't have to like refill it. It was kind of like an everlasting ink in each marker. How much would that cost if that were the case? That'd be crazy. Although to be honest, like if that existed where it's these everlasting Copic markers, I'm curious how much a set would cost, because at this point, like as is, Copic markers themselves are so pricey here in Australia anyway, so I couldn't imagine how much an everlasting Copic marker would cost. Like individual markers themselves. Would people even buy a set? I'm sure they would. I'd probably invest in it. I mean, it would be an investment at that point. You'd have to almost think of ways that you can use it just because you've paid so much for it. So yeah, the flesh tones, the shorts, gloves, and shoes at this point is colored. So what's left is essentially her shirt, which is also pink, and the jacket, which is a yellow. So I'm more than halfway done with the colors at this point. Once I finish the yellow, I do the hair, and then it's done. It's a done piece. Fun piece, very, very fun piece too. There you go. Onto the yellow. You know what? Looking at it now, bloody love her design. So simple, so of the time, but timeless as well somewhat. Like, it's an iconic look, I feel. It's very recognizable. You know, the yellow jacket, the yellow Bret Hart glasses, the pink Bret Hart glasses, and a pink shirt. Shorts can change, turn to pants if you want, but essentially the jacket, the glasses, the gloves, and you got yourself a Jubilee. So for the hair, I was gonna initially use Copic Marker to render it like I did everything else, like all the other color parts, but I decided to go with the Brushpen and go for like a dry brush effect, which I think worked quite well. So yeah, cheers for watching. If you haven't already, go over to the channel and go watch some more videos. Haha.